Yo, 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 what a freaking win. I'm going to check YouTube and see if we're live right now, see if anybody's in here. All right, I'm up on YouTube. I can see you chat. Give me one sec. I'm going to get pulled up. What up, Ben C? Good to see you in here again. Um, if y'all got any questions, type them up, but I'm over here working on the graphic for this sweet win we got.
Holy crap. We eviscerated them in Bud Walton.
Dude, dude, it was so
It's
good. It's
it's a
so good.
party. It's a party. Holy crap. What a win.
We got six in the chat already. I'm here working on the graphic.
Yeah, yeah. We'll give it just a minute longer on the live and then we'll start recording. But holy crap. What a win. I haven't seen anything like that, man. Like someone was joking that it was like a church
I
service.
Ben C's saying that there's no poll on Reddit if you want to get that updated.
Got it. Just put it up like 3 minutes ago, 2 minutes ago. Yeah, I gotta be on more on top of it. Yeah, I want to hear some people's thoughts on here. We've got a I think we're gonna have a little discussion here on a first half, second half MVP decision. I'm not
Oh
splitting it. I'm
no.
not splitting it. We're
All
gonna have
right,
to
all
figure
right,
it
all right.
out.
As long as you're as long as you agree we're not splitting.
Too much fun to have to discuss it, you know. Rocking the Auburn Nike shirt. You see that every day? You ever seen that? A Nike
Wait, I
Auburn
can't I
shirt?
can't see you. Hold on. Where again I gotta pull the zoom up. Oh, ooh.
You ever seen that
Sexy.
before? This logo's got to come back too. I haven't seen that one in a while.
Yeah, if we
I'm
can
I'm,
sign
do- I'm
this
wearing
Nike
this.
deal and get out of Under Armour.
I left all this stuff at my parents' place, and then like I need to get some of it eventually. So over Thanksgiving, I got some. I found this one in there. I was like, holy crap, a Nike Auburn shirt. You don't see that every day. All right, we already got some people in the chat. Chat, let us know your MVP before we start recording here, or any thoughts on the game you want to hear from us. All right, I'm about ready whenever you are, I guess.
Yeah, man, let's kick it. I'm gonna pull these stats up that Ryan sent us and we'll be good.
You want to record? You want me to record? I feel like last time
It's
you're.
it's up to you. I can record if that's easier.
Let's see if it matters because there was still a lag or two last episode. So if there's no lags this episode and you record, then we'll know to like split up the functions. You know, if we still have a lag or two, then I'll know like the live stuff's messing up with my internet and we'll
Yeah.
switch hosts next time.
All right.
Okay.
You ready to get it rolling?
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Where's the record? All right, I'm about to start here.
Go for it.
All right, guys, we just dominated Arkansas in Fayetteville,
Woo!
in Bud Walton, a
Woo!
32-point victory. We scored 83. They scored 51 in their own
Woo!
house. The second half, they were talking women's basketball for 5 minutes and didn't even care. We put back dunks with Cardwell because we were dominating so badly. It turned into like what we felt like an at a conference beatdown. Like they were demoralized. Jonai down the stretch just did whatever he wanted. It just seemed like there was absolutely like we extinguished the fire in Arkansas. They like laid down in the second half. And then KD, with about 4 or 5 minutes left, tried to destroy the arena with a huge dunk. He missed the dunk, but man, if he had thrown that dunk down, I think they might have to like demolish the whole arena. But Ben, man, are we having fun?
We're having so much fun, Jackson. More than half of our points came from the bench tonight. So the main
Wow.
question we had going into this game is our depth legit? Are we really a 10-man deep rotation? We're an 11-man deep rotation. They weren't great, but we got some decent Leor minutes tonight. Maybe he's in the MVP discussion.
Maybe. He
No, that was a joke.
one day, Leor. Actually, it'll have to be at a conference, I think, or it'll have to be like a moment where like both of our threes go down and he has to play the whole game and like keeps us in something. But I think we got two guys in particular. But just pulling up the stat sheet over here blew my mind that we shot 39% from three in this
Oh yeah, the
game.
second half we really came alive. I don't know if anybody
Holy
noticed
crap,
this.
that's how we just dominated. We were at like 11% at like late in the first half, still in the game. I think we finished the first half at 20%. To end with 39% from three at the end of the game, we just dominated down the stretch.
Well, and not even that. We also obliterated them in points in the paint. I don't know if the Ferg
That's
breakdown has this number yet, but I know that about the midway point in the second half, we had them doubled up in points in the paint.
it's great. Right now, I think they got points in the paint is on here. 48-18. You know,
Oh,
doubling up. That's like tripling up.
oh. That's the win. That's the differential right there is points in the paint with
Well,
the
it's
final score.
crazy. This is how you end up with a 32-point win in Bud Walton against what was supposed to be a hyped Arkansas team this year, like they have been the last couple of years. But you shoot 39% from three eventually the whole game, even though you struggled early, and then you dominate the points in the paint, 48-14. Total rebounds, 46 for Auburn, Arkansas 32. That was a big thing in the first half that no one was really scoring well at all, but we kept getting more shots. I believe we had 5 or 6 more shots in the first half, like halfway through the first half. That was a big deal. I mean, we just fast break points, 17-7, assists, 16-8. I mean, this is what happens when you win by 32. The stat sheet looks real good, huh?
I mean, look, let's go back and say that there's a lot of stuff we got to work on. Once again, we came slow out of the gate. Some of that was the officiating's fault. The referees knew this was going to be a hotly contested game. They were calling it super tight early, and they called some soft technical fouls pretty much the whole game through. And
I mean,
luckily for us,
it took like 15 minutes to get through. It was 2-0 for like 15 minutes of real time, not game time, but real time because they had some weird stuff. The shot clock didn't go on to begin the game. Then there was a weird like shoving thing with Jonai Broom in the corner that I believe they called a foul on both maybe and broke them up, but it was really weak. And then there was a trash talking tech from CBM and a trash talking tech from Trey, which were so weak. I know there's people in the comments that'll disagree, but those are just so weak. Come on, you can't say gotcha or whatever they freaking said to him on the bench. Come on, you know.
and again, let's go back and look, the officiating wasn't that crazy overall in terms of the ticky tack personals.
Well,
We shot 11 free
it
throws,
wasn't. The second half went so quickly because there was
especially
no.
compared to that first
When you
half.
just dominate that badly, the refs start swallowing the whistle a bit, and the players, Arkansas was so demoralized. We were getting crazy, like low effort points. You just have somebody underneath the goal, barely guarded at all. So, like, of course, there was no fouls down the stretch. It started weird as hell. The refs tried to keep it weird as hell, which actually played to our advantage to start the game. But then when it's just got blowout time, they didn't need to interject themselves, you know? Like they couldn't even interject themselves if they wanted to.
Yeah, we finished shooting 11 total free throws for the day. Arkansas only shot 15, but we both hit 8. So Arkansas was barely over 50% from the free throw line. They had the opportunity for a lot of easy, cheap points, and they couldn't cash in. And that was part of what kept them at arm's length the whole way. That and the performance of Janai Broom in the second half, which was truly a virtuoso resurrection for the ages.
He loved his matchup, man. It was every possession. He was doing exactly what he wanted to do, just domination by Broom. We might not see that for a long time. We've had some decent centers recently, but history-wise, even early Bruce teams, not great centers. It was a lot of fun to watch Broom work down there. He lives below the rim, but man, his moves, I don't know what to say about him. It's just so smooth and he's got great shots. You want to walk
You
us
can
through
see,
like narrative wise of like how the game went? I mean, I kind of talked to the first like minute or two of how weird it was, but like I don't know if you want to like just do a quick overview of the game before we get into MVP discussion.
yeah, I mean, it was a very strange first half, a very 2022 Auburn first half. There was a lot of good defense and a lot of bad shots. We were missing close at the basket. We had Janai, I think, start the game 0 for 4 from right inside. He did shoot one 3-pointer,
He
but
had
we had
0
guys
points in the
missing.
first half, right?
Yeah, he had
0
0
points
points
from
in the first half.
wow.
And we had a lot of guys missing really, really close to the basket. I'm going down and looking here. 15 minutes and 19 seconds, Arkansas got a dunk. And then there was not another basket until we were below the 15-minute mark. But for the first 5 minutes of the game, the score was 8-5. So
Brutal. It was
in
brutal. No one there was a lid on the basket. Fouls started getting a little discrepancy in the first half. Like I think at one point we had 7 fouls on us and 3 on them. And then we just could not hit a 3 to save our life. Like I said, we were 11% from 3 with like 5 minutes left in the first half. But we just kept scoring in the paint to keep this thing tight, right?
Yeah. And the other big thing that Arkansas really did a great job of was getting us out of our passing game. We had a lot of turnovers early and we were not assisting well. In the first half, we were having to play a lot of isolation ball, which has not been a strength for this team all year and will probably continue to be a weakness just because, again, we don't have a guy that's a scorer. But we saw Denver Jones really attacking the basket and get himself to the free throw line a couple of times in the first half and did it without getting blocked. He actually drew the
You
foul.
You love to see it in a game. It's a vet move right there. In a game where the shots are just not going down, you stay in a game in Bud Walton Arena by driving the ball and getting a couple foul calls. And that's what some of our guys did. We started scoring in the paint. You like half the time when you drive in there hard, you're going to get a foul call and you're going to get to shoot your free throws. And that's how you stay in a away game. And we'll probably hopefully see that the rest of the year with some of these vet players. And we've got, man, like you said, another. I mean, we could just keep spiraling out, but the depth, that's what we were most worried about, right? If this team would to be end up to be bad, it was that the depth couldn't handle in the SEC. But guess who stepped up in the first half when this team was kind of back and forth what was going to happen? We didn't score very well. Broom didn't score a single point. We put our backups in, our second line. I don't know if we want to even call them backups anymore because they're playing so well. You would call them our second line or whatever with KD, CBM, Trey, Chaney Johnson, and Cardwell. And they held their own. And not only did they hold their own, that's kind of where we started this lead was with those
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
And who
Oh, yeah.
was it, Ben? Tell me about who was the first half, the dude.
The dude in the first half was absolutely Jackson's favorite player, Chad Baker Mazara. I mean, when we couldn't hit a shot, hit 2 3-pointers in the first half. He was driving inside, drawing fouls. His defensive rotations left a little bit to be desired.
I thought his
But
defense played really well. He had that
no,
great like
he
corner
definitely.
3-point defense where he like jumped up too early, pump fake, and he's still so long that by the time he got back on the ground, he just put his hand behind the guy's 3-point shot. He had to pull it back down. I think he turned the ball over. I thought that
Well,
was a
he
great
forced
defense
the
possession.
guy. Yeah, he forced the guy to travel. But again, that was in the second half. In that
That's
first
what it
half,
was.
he yeah, in that first half, he was struggling a little bit with his defensive rotation. So again, that comes back to an incredible job by the coaching staff of our second half adjustments. I mean, it was clear they saw something to get the ball to Janai inside and force that matchup that he absolutely ate on. And then Chad Baker Mazar's defense in the second half was absolutely outstanding. It's not that it was bad in the first half, but it was so good in the second half with his aggressiveness and his ability to get to the ball and be that agent of chaos we've seen him be all non-conference.
And we could talk about this weird CBM moment too. We were struggling to score. We're putting our backups in. You're kind of worried that, oh, this might be when the other team goes on a run. We're already struggling to score. Now we're putting our backups in. The CBM comes in, hits a three, immediately turns to somebody on the front row, maybe like fans, I believe, maybe, and trash talk something, says something. Immediate tech, super weak tech, gives them to the free throw. Like, oh crap, we finally hit a shot, and now we're giving them 3 points with a tech here. But he comes right back. I'm pretty sure he finishes a drive or two later in that possession. He might hit another three. Played good defense, in my opinion. We played zone a lot of that first half. I don't know if we continued it through the second half or not. I was just so elated with the party's atmosphere. But like they struggled a lot with that zone early on. I don't know if that's the full reason why they had 51 points. They hit some hard threes. I was complaining that this is such a classic away game. We can't seem to hit anything. We're headed towards foul trouble. They're hitting bad shots. They were not good shots. And you brought that up too, Ben, when they started scoring earlier on. That calm down, everybody. They're making bad shots. Those are not good shots. And it really did even out as it went. Like same with us. We were taking good shots. They just weren't going in. It reversed later in the first half and truly in the second half.
Yeah, you can't say enough about this team's discipline, particularly compared to last year. And I think so much of that has to do with the fact that we have more offensive weapons ready to go. We have more guys that understand what their role is, and nobody panics. We knew, like you were saying, that Arkansas was going to go on a run. We knew they were going to hit some shots. We knew they were going to hit some circus stuff. That's the magic of playing at home. But everybody stayed within themselves. Nobody played hero ball. Aiden realized his shot was not falling early and went right back into his deferral mode. Aiden Holloway finished with 0 assists today, which is kind of shocking, but he had 5 rebounds. So that's a guy that's 6'1" out there hustling for rebounds and continuing to make plays. He did finally hit a three in the second half, but perhaps more importantly, 0 turnovers. So
Yeah.
when you look at our stats as a whole, we only had 16 assists. So we're a little off our season average because of how poor that first half was, but only 7 turnovers. So we're still assisting at a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio,
Yeah.
which is just beautiful basketball.
The passes were probably there. The shots just weren't being made in the first half. We were shooting so terribly. So it's probably still good basketball. Like we were saying, good shots were being taken. They just weren't going in. I've got to give another props to this team, man. The depth is so great. And the amount of times I'm so tensed up during away games. You just know that when you're already struggling offensively and somebody takes a bad shot on top of already playing bad defensively, we rarely took bad shots in this game. It was so fun to watch. Several times I watched a CBM or a KD or even a Jalen or one of the other guys, an Aiden, a Trey, look like they might pull up for a bad shot. And almost every single time they made the pass. And almost every
Yeah.
single time we got a good shot out of that. There was one in particular, very proud of CBM. I just can't get over CBM. I mean, that is my dude. And he just showed out today. And he was on his streak of hitting threes, driving to the basket and scoring. And then he got another 3-point look that was like semi-guarded. You could have taken it. It would definitely have ended up with the refs, or not the refs, the announcers going, oh, that was a heat check. Yep, he didn't make it. Instead, he passed the freaking ball and we got a good shot. And that is like, you can't, like, that is the kind of like attitude this team is bringing that'll make all the difference.
Yeah, you look at Chad Baker Mazar, he's kind of like a hybrid forward almost at this point because he seems like with the way he bangs inside, he could play some minutes at the four, even though we did get some quality minutes from Cheney tonight. But Chad Baker Mazar finished with 3 assists, and so did Janai. That's your center with 3 assists. That shows you the willingness of this team to defer, to keep the ball moving, and to make sure that everybody is getting the shots that they need. It's such a breath of fresh air after having to watch us play so much hero ball the last season.
We got a lot of people in the chat today. A lot of the chat's really going off. Let me know who you guys want your MVP is. Some other people have already got their MVP votes in. Miles Nordgren, love the trash talking CBM MVP. Farm Data says CBM MVP for clapping during his technical. He knew it was BS. Love that. Willie Whitelaw, the legend, says, I don't know how we haven't said this yet. Largest ever loss at Bud Walton for Arkansas. Bruce is always talking about making history. We did it again today, folks. We made history. We embarrassed them so badly in their place that we made history in the record books. That's going to stand for a while, I think, too, the way the Arkansas program's been on the rise. Man, that what a fun
Absolutely.
game. And then on
And Jackson, let's talk about what some of the folks in the chat may have missed if you didn't join us for our SEC preview and the trial of Jalen Williams. Let's talk about the play of Jalen Williams today.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. How many points did he end up with here?
He
Jalen
finished with
Williams.
11.
11.
He was tied with Trey as our third leading scorer, but he was 5 of 9. So he took 9 shots, which is exactly what we've been asking of him. We want
And
him
he
to be more
drove the
aggressive.
ball, and he drove the ball through contact. He didn't make every single one of them. He did have one go off his leg at time, but man, watching him make that decision where he could have taken a jump shot or even a three to drive when our shots weren't going in. He's another one of those I was talking about when I said they made that extra pass. His wasn't always an extra pass. His was not taking a contested three or a bad jump shot. He was driving the ball and finishing with a two. That was a huge moment in the first half. And like, again, most of the time it's still a quiet 11 for the most part, but I love the drives. That's what you got to see away games like that.
Well, and again, it was a quiet 11, but 6 of those points came in the first half when we desperately needed them, and even more of them came in that second half. Jalen Williams was one of the few players to hit a 3-pointer in that first half, which kept Arkansas at arm's length and kept the pressure on them. Obviously, we wanted to win this game, but given where we're at in the rankings and given where we're at in the analytics, losing a road game to a team as talented as Arkansas, it stings personally, but it doesn't maybe sting professionally. Arkansas needed this win. Arkansas has a good win against Duke, but they also have a really bad loss. And again, when you're at home, you're expected to hold serve. We just got a great message from Ryan Norman, who couldn't join us on the pod today. But Ryan says we are now up to 5th in KenPom after this win.
Wow. Love it. I put on Reddit. I'm doing that after every game, asking for MVP votes. We got a couple of MVP votes in the chat in Reddit. Ribs and Whiskey said, I got 3 words for you. CBM. Side engineer, Sid Engineer 42, got to go CBM today. Keep Cool Coolidge says, if you give Jonai the Chattanooga game, for most impact when it still mattered, then you have to give this one a CBM for the same reason. I am with you, and I love that people are listening and understand that's kind of where we've gone this year with depth. And then last, AU Art said, I'll trade some shit talking fouls for what CBM is bringing. I love it. A lot of CBM votes here. I think you guys are feeling the same thing as me. But we got to talk about it because CBM, in my opinion, this will be our MVP discussion. CBM got the points when they mattered to me, like people are saying. When things were on the line, when things were tough, CBM came in with the backup line and had a great game and set us up to where we ended up. But man, it's like a role reversal here because the first half got dominated by CBM, but the second half was a show by Jonai Broome. 0 points in the first half for Jonai Broome, but he ends up with 14 in the second half. So that shows you a little bit right there. 7 of 13 from the field. CBM led us in score. Man, I love that. In his first SEC game, he's accelerating. Can you believe it? That's what I said in our SEC preview. I said him and Aiden maybe are 2 of the only players maybe in this that'll probably have a chance to accelerate through SEC play. A lot of other guys are going to drop off of it. I think we saw that with Chris Moore tonight. But man, CBM with 16 points, a career night, 2 of 3 from 3 in big moments, 5 of 9 from the field, 4 of 4 from free throws. That was a big deal to hit those free throws down the stretch. It really changes the game when things are a little rough and you get that foul call and you hit both your free throws. So that's your 2 big guys to talk about. Ben, any strong opinions?
There's one last player that I don't want us to miss, and that's the effectiveness of Trey Donaldson. Again, once you want to talk about points when it matters, Trey Donaldson's ability to drive towards the end of that first half when we were in our second rotation is one more example of the bench not just holding serve like we need them to, but actually continuing to slowly build on a lead. Last year, it was when we rotate the bench in with a lead, we just need them to hold serve. We don't need to go under double digits until we can bring the starters back in. This year, we have such an effective bench they can actually stretch that lead. Trey Donaldson's ability to dish continues to be just immaculate. He finished with 4 assists to lead us in his distributing ability, and he hit a 3-pointer at the end of the second half, which is definitely just always good to see. It's been a while since Trey's shot at volume, but knowing that he can hit from that distance is going to continue to leave those downhill lanes open for him. So Trey had an amazing game. Janai had an amazing half. Jalen continues to step up like he has for the last 4 games.
Just
But I think it's
solid.
undeniable. We needed somebody to replace the production of Alan Flanagan. And Chris Moore, he was never going to be that guy. So we
The
needed
plus
a Chad Baker
minus,
Mazar to be.
the
Oh, you want
plus
to know what the
minus
plus
has
minus?
got to be insane because Chris Moore, I got like
Hang
he
on,
came out
Ryan.
bad in this one. I think he turned the ball over 2 possessions in a row or two out of the three first possessions. And then CBM just came in and roasted. And I put it out there on Twitter, and we kind of came to this conclusion in the last game or two. CBM probably deserves the starting role. But you saw it tonight when the bench players come in, when the second line comes in, we need him to be the guy that can be offense. KD, hey, is a chaos agent, and some nights he'll be the offense, but CBM I think will be our go-to guy to get the ball to on offense when we have our second line. And tonight showed we can thrive and we can have a better depth line when their second line comes in. Ours comes in and thrives while they're the ones holding their breath, which is a lot of fun. I'm having fun.
All right, Jackson, who do you think led us in plus minus tonight?
CBM.
Incorrect. CBM was third with plus minus 21 when he was on the floor.
Wow. What was Chris Moore's plus minus? Negative what?
Believe it or not, Chris Moore actually did not finish in the minus. He finished at plus 7.
I
The
see
closest the
plus
closest
minus,
person we
man.
had to a bad the closest person we had to a bad player was KD. He finished at a flat 0. But we
Wow.
did
So everybody's positive.
we don't have a single player in the negative for plus minus. That's how good this game was and how good we
Wow.
were overall. Second place, Denver Jones at plus 26. And in
All
first
right.
place, my man, number 3, Trey Donaldson at plus 31.
There you go. There was your whole point you were just making. And bench points I saw over here, man. It just feels so good. Bench points for Auburn, 46. Bench points for Arkansas, 9. Holy crap. I'm hoping that's the story all year. Let's party this thing up because we might not see like this team could be really great. I think there's a chance Arkansas, there's something weird going on with them, and we just got on them and they just collapsed on us. But man, party while we can. We hopefully be partying the rest of the year, but I'm having fun.
Listen, again, never take a road win for granted. And a road win like this, you're right. We didn't just win. We didn't just go on the road and face some tough adversity, which we had a little bit of adversity in that first half. We strangled the life out of this team and we did it 2 points at a time. Particularly, you go back and look at that second half. We felt a run coming. They hit some 3 pointers. It looked like, are they going to get this thing back to single digits and make it a game? But we went back down the floor. We fed Janai Broom 2 points at a time. We strangled the life out of them until they just gave up.
I would say if there's an analogy here for our MVP vote, CBM came, it's a tag team situation here in the first half. CBM came in and put up a good fight and knocked the guy down on the other side. He then went back to the ring, tagged Jonai in. As that guy tried to get back up, Jonai just stepped on his neck and kept it on there the rest of the freaking game. And so there is an argument to be made for Jonai Broom that if he didn't just dominate his matchup like he did in the second half, they could have been out of the half or something, a comeback. We were only up 7 at halftime. But I got to say that early CBM run when our backups were in was just so huge that I got to give him the MVP. And I think you're in agreement.
Absolutely. Listen, we all know what we have in Janai Broom, and Janai Broom is an incredible player. He might be one of the best players to play center at Auburn of all time. We'll see what it's like when we get to the end of his career. But without a doubt, today's MVP's got to be Chad Baker Mazara.
And I got to give it. This is a good time to say we're celebrating. We're enjoying this. I can't believe CBM, I believe, is getting his first MVP, right? In his first SEC game. Feeling very Walker Kessler-esque right now with the
Well,
accelerating into
this
SEC.
this is his second MVP. I believe we gave him the MVP in the win over UNC Asheville in Huntsville.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So if we're going to take a shot here of Red Mount vodka, the Auburn themed
Oh wait,
vodka bottle
hang on.
here with,
Vamp, I'll be back. I gotta
with
grab my
Charles
vodka.
Barkley on the logo. If you're not drinking Red Mount vodka, the Charles Barkley owned vodka company that makes an Auburn specific bottle after a victory like this, what are you doing? We don't get stuff like this as Auburn fans every day. There's not Auburn owned vodka every day, especially not of an alum that we love. And he's done so much for Auburn that I just feel like as a fan base, we should be supporting him back. This is like the only way. I don't know any other way other than just like praising him all the time and saying how great he is on TNT, saying he's a great alumni. This literally helps monetarily. It's delicious. It's fun. I hope it becomes a tradition. I believe Ben is going to get his red mount also. Hopefully everybody at home is also getting their red mount at the same time. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat here. Ben C says it's smart by Bruce. Instead of overloading one line, he spreads the talent between two lines so that the weaknesses don't pull down the second line. Love it. CBM's such a godsend. If we didn't have CBM playing the way he is, I don't know what we would do. I don't think we're switching somebody off of the starting lineup to go in there. I think we just got really lucky that CBM's as good as he is. You got your shot ready, Ben?
Sir Charles, Redmont Distilling, we thank you.
War Eagle.
So smooth, so incredible. Thank you, Charles Barkley.
Farm Data says, whoa, whoa, whoa. Charles has a statue. Let's not commit heresy. Yeah, true. He's got a statue, so we are respecting him for sure on campus. But hey, as fans, the vodka. Now, who's another player you want to talk about on here? You've talked about Trey, Jalen, Jonai.
Let's
KD?
go back to talking about Denver Jones again, because we had
yeah.
talked for a while about wanting to see him be more effective downhill. And we were a little worried about when we got to SEC play, were we going to see him continue to get blocked? Was he going to continue to be ineffective? And although he didn't make as many shots as I'm sure he wanted to, I think his drives were great. And I think getting to the foul line is a big deal. And we saw him do that. We saw him do both of those things tonight.
Denver Jones, 7 points, 1 of 1 from 3, which is he's been very efficient from 3. I wouldn't mind him taking a couple more and seeing what we can get, but he did drive the ball, which was great. That's something we were worried about, that he might be one of those few players that can't step up in SEC, that he already wasn't dominating its at a conference teams like we kind of hoped he would as he's stepping up into the Auburn role. So then you wonder what he'll do in the SEC. But hey, a solid 7 right there. When CBM's stepping up, you don't really need him to play quite as well. He had an early drive where he got hit pretty hard, fell pretty hard, took a tech. I think it was at least 4 techs this game. 3 techs, 4 techs, because that was a tech.
There might have been 5.
Yeah, that was a tech on how hard. Yeah, because there was one on the shove of CBM. That was crazy. We'll talk about that one. Denver Jones got hit really hard on a flagrant foul and took his free throws, and he was out for a while after that. I was kind of worried for a bit that he might have hit something, but he came back in, played well, kept driving the ball, and that's something we haven't seen a ton in the at a conference, but clearly was a point that Bruce was making in this game. I don't know if it was early in the game when they just saw the shots weren't going down, or if that was the plan all along. But man, dominated them in the paint. Paint points, 48 to Arkansas's 18, and that was part of it because our guards were driving well.
Yeah, for sure. We saw it from Trey. We saw it from KD, who tried to throw down a thunderous dunk to really take their spirit. He couldn't quite do it, but he gave it his college try. And yeah, great play from Denver. The guy who was really missing tonight was Aiden Holloway. We have some guys in the chat saying he looked a little lost on defense, and I think I agree. I think we saw the level of competition step up and prove to be a little bit of a challenge for Aiden. So the nice thing is we have a stellar point guard that has not yet found his ceiling. I think we've seen Chad Baker Mazara's ceiling. I think today was about the best.
Oh, I disagree. I think CBM's just going like this. He's accelerating, man. Every game he's getting better. His drives are getting better. He's getting more confident. He's taking good shots, playing better defense now. He's getting in there. He's getting in their heads. That's where we talk about CBM. He's getting in their heads. There was a crazy, we had already rattled them a bit. We were already up 15 or 16, and out of nowhere, their player just shoved a mess out of CBM, and he went flying. And I joked on Twitter and on Reddit that there was all this talk about CBM being too light, being pushed around, and that might be an issue. But honestly, he's collecting fouls like crazy on offense. Every time he does a jump shot, he gets a foul. I think part of that might be that he's getting pushed around so easily that it looks bad. It looks more like an aggravated assault. So that guy shoved him. And I think that anybody would have fallen because he shoved him so hard. But man, CBM went flying. And of course, they got a tech on that. And I wonder if a Chris Moore or somebody with a little more heft on him wouldn't go flying quite as hard. And they might not call that same foul.
Well, that's who we can talk about. Chris Moore was probably the lone disappointment in the totality of this performance. He turned over the ball twice early on. He got a shot blocked in the first half. He really displayed the only real weakness in our 11-man rotation.
He's getting worse. It's weird. You would think by now, he would be getting better. Or so. It's kind of weird. Almost in my head, think of him as the old man on the team that is on the decline athletically. He's 22 or 23 or something. He shouldn't be going down in skill level right now, or getting blocked, turning the ball over on the road. That's what you're supposed to be doing as a vet on this team, is just being the solid guy that understands how to play on away games, knows how to keep a level head, knows how to do the leadership. So I don't know. You got to have CBM coming off the bench, but I hope Chris Moore can start giving us some better minutes. Lior's still playing. That might be why Leor's still playing. Maybe Chris Moore's just really like they really want to keep him out there for the leadership. I don't know, maybe there was an injury a year ago, maybe or 2 years ago that may have really hampered him because he looked pretty athletic in years past. He's looking pretty unathletic right now, right?
Yeah, it's hard to really get a grasp on exactly what's going on with Chris Moore. We've seen him be less effective in out of conference play. Some of that was that Chad Baker was playing a lot more minutes, but
And that's
Flanagan
where he
wasn't
thrived.
playing.
That's where he thrived. I used to not accuse or whatever, but like some of these players like KD, Leor, Chris Moore that are kind of like tweeners or not quite as athletically gifted, they end up doing pretty well against these out of conference teams, and they have a game or two where you're like, oh, maybe Chris Moore scored 12 in this one. Maybe he can do something. But really, it's because it's playing Alabama State or Florida Atlantic, or I don't know. Florida Atlantic's actually really good now. I don't know, some of these worse teams, these mid majors. He didn't really do that this year either. And last year and the year before, he was flying around, right? Getting a lot of weird rebounds, getting putbacks. He was an energy guy. He
Yeah,
was
he won
playing
an
good
MVP.
defense. Yeah, he would have some games where you look up and he got a lot of these weird offensive rebounds and played solid defense on some guys. And he's just, I don't know what's going on. We might find out later he's injured or something, but that'll be something to watch for sure because we need him to at least be fine, right? Like it's got to be fine because otherwise you got to rely on Leor for those same amount of minutes, and he's also just
I mean,
kind of fine.
yeah, he's got to be more serviceable than he was in this game. It's going to be something to watch going forward for sure. Can Chris Moore not be a detriment to this team? It's going to be a challenge. He is an old, savvy veteran player, and to have him committing turnovers early on, if Arkansas was a better team today, he would have gotten us in a hole that might have been a lot harder to dig out of. So he was probably today's biggest disappointment.
Leor came in and played some decent minutes. He just, I think Matt's brought this up a couple times. He just gets the worst calls. I think it's some sort of like, this is going to sound crazy, but it's been several years of watching this now. I think there's some like unconscious bias. He sticks out. He's the Jewish white boy on the team. And people don't think he can keep up. And there's like this unconscious bias that maybe he's not keeping up. Today, he did a swipe, no physical contact on the guy. They called the foul, and you saw it in the replay. He just gets I think people just don't think he should be keeping up out there. And so when he's playing aggressive defense, they're just ready to blow that whistle because they think he's going to hang on them or do something weird. And so I don't know. And he made a reverse layup, which was nice. It was really late in the game. I'd love to see him go back to hitting some open threes, but he is what he is. You know, it's a solid 10 minutes. That's not going to
Look,
embarrass us to rest our
yeah,
people.
I think if he can continue to be a guy that doesn't cost us during his minutes, that's going to be about the most we can expect from him, especially with the way that the rules have changed in college basketball. It's hard to imagine Leor scoring points in bunches. I don't think he's built for that, especially when he
The,
can't hit open three pointers.
do you feel this way too? Maybe I'm also got this unconscious bias or whatever that I'm like watching him too closely when he's in, but it feels like the other teams go after him for some
Oh no,
reason.
that's absolutely true. They
Yeah, they
100% key
think
off
that's
when he
the
comes in and
weakness.
attack.
Yeah. I don't know if he's
Yeah.
really the weakness they think he is, but it seems to be collecting fouls because of that. You know, he's
Yeah, and
he's getting those
if you remember
assignments.
last year, he used to draw a lot of charges when he would come in because guys
Yeah.
would come at him and he knew how to position his feet. And that was the biggest thing that I noticed about his game in non-conference was they've sort of taken that part of his game out of college basketball. It's so much harder to draw fouls now than it used to be in the charge game.
I mean, it's better for the sport overall. I'm pretty happy with it sport wise, but yeah, it's a detriment to some of these guys. A KD used to get a decent amount of those. Leor, like you said, used to get a decent amount of these. But honestly, better for basketball overall to see a little more high
Yeah,
flying, see a
I'm
little
not super
less of
mad
this
about it.
like people throwing their head back constantly and like playing that silly game. So who else you want to talk about in here? Dylan Cardwell had a decent game, 6 points.
Oh,
If
hang on.
Dylan
No. Dylan didn't have a decent game. Dylan had a great game as a backup center.
3 of 3 from the field, missed his 2 free throws, played 14 minutes. He played that long stretch, man. I can't say enough how great that second lineup has been. The energy is amazing. The defense is great. And now with CBM scoring, man, it's just a ton of fun to watch. I mean, part of it's probably because we're going against their second line most likely, or their first line being tired by then. But we're having long stretches at times where Broom is every time Cardwell's in there, we know he's not a great offensive threat. And so when we have like a couple possessions with some timeouts, some free throws where you could put Broom back in, and then you have a commercial break where you think Broom's going to come back in, and he's still not coming in because that's how much they're trusting Cardwell right now. It's a lot of fun to watch. It's really like not the traditional backup role that we've seen in the past where it was like, hey, just do some minutes here. while we can rest our guy real quick. They're leaving him out there at times and saying this is a good lineup and we like how it's thriving out there.
It's definitely making a difference for our depth for sure.
Who else you want to talk about on here? Who
I
else?
mean, that's kind of it
Cheney.
for our player breakdown. We saw probably what we expected from Chaney Johnson getting into conference play. He's going to have to continue to work on his body movement just a little bit. It's clear that the level of competition is really going to step up in conference play. Chaney Johnson is not quite there yet, but we're continuing to see him develop. He hit a 3-pointer tonight.
Liked it.
You know,
Yep.
in garbage time, the game was definitely out of hand. But again, that's what we've been begging for: is just can we hit open threes? And if you're going to leave him open, well, why not let him shoot? Because Jalen at the 4 position has the green light to shoot threes when he's open.
Everyone scored except for Chris Moore. In fact, everyone scored. No, never mind. Leo got two. I was about to say everyone scored 5 points or more even. So the only guy that really didn't score was Chris Moore. That's pretty crazy. That's great depth.
Extremely great depth. I love it.
What did you think about we played zone for the majority of the first half? Do you like our zone? I felt like we got lost at times, but man, they were not it seemed to rattle them. I couldn't tell if it was the zone that was rattling them or they were just shooting so badly. Maybe they're not a good team. I don't know, but it seemed like it worked.
Well, Arkansas is a talented team, but again, they've got a lot of young guys and they've got a lot of guys they went out and got in the portal. If you remember when we were looking for our portal guys, Arkansas grabbed a couple of players that we wanted to, including guard Tremont Mark, who absolutely torched us in the NCAA tournament last year. So we expected this team to come together a little bit more than they have, which is just great for us. I mean, again, you heard Ryan talk about this in the SEC preview. The way to win right now in college basketball is to get older because so many teams are not experienced in tough, challenging environments. And it's a slog to get through all of these games. And so when you have a team like Auburn that's a little bit older and that's had a little bit more time playing together, I think it just makes you a better team overall.
I wonder if Arkansas is going to turn the corner this year. This has got to be like they've had some rough starts through the years. They've lost some of these weird out of conference games. They've already lost that weird one this year, but they've done that in the past years and still turned it around. I think the maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but they were showing their banner. They've done an Elite Eight, and a Sweet 16 in the last 3 years, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so they turned the corner on the other years where they played badly, but this is rough. And this was I wonder if you look back at this mentally for them because I don't watch them like a hawk necessarily, but they gave up in the second half, right? I
Oh
mean, that
yeah. We
shove on
definitely beat them into
CBM was
submission.
brutal. It was like a breaking point for them. They shoved CBM for no reason. And like the announcers were looking for a reason. The announcers like, surely something happened before this. Blah, blah, blah. It was like, all right, come on. The guy shoved them. And then after that, they just gave up, man. We were scoring so easily. Their defense was whack. I believe they even put in a walk-on backup near the end, right? They were like, all right, whatever, we're down 30 points.
Yeah, for
Tony
sure.
Barnhart said, I just joined the live, and y'all might have already mentioned this, but I read that this was the second worst home loss ever at Arkansas. Let me know because I've seen some other places that say this is the worst loss for Bud Walton Arena history. So somebody let me know if it's the second worst or the first worst. 32-point beat
The
down.
broadcast was saying this is the worst beatdown for sure.
So let me know if anybody else hears any different, if it's first or second. Yoda Suppa Club, Suppa Chub says Cardwell is that dude that can defend any hyper athletic dudes and to really drive, wait, athletic dudes and to really drive this point home. Dylan shut down Yves Missy in the Baylor game. Yves got his points on Broom. It's man, I gotta say a lot about Cardwell's athletic ability. It's so much fun to watch him out there. He still doesn't have that touch, but man, he's starting to consistently score 5, 6, 7 points a game, which is pretty good for him. And yeah, you're right. There's like always this hilarious moment where they try to switch a center onto one of their guards so they can drive past them, and I get excited. I get
Oh
excited
yeah.
when Cardwell's out there on a guard because you know they're going to try to drive, and it's just not going to happen. It ruins. It's hilarious how often it ruins a possession for the other team when they think they can switch on to Cardwell, and he's like, "Yeah, I love this. I will come all the way up to the 3 point line, and you're not getting past me." So that's another one of those, value Cardwell while we have some. We're not. It's gonna be tough to have a backup center this good in the future. We got pretty lucky with a guy this athletic.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it all through the non-conference about how important Cardwell had been and how improved not just his offensive game was, but his defensive game. He's one of the few players that have really benefited from the rule change. His ability to position his body in space and have access to that vertical ground as a defender. game changing.
Looking down the stat sheet here, if there's any other big stats that stick out. 5 blocks, so they're 4, so it's pretty even there. But I love my blocks.
Yeah,
Free
Janai
throw
had two tonight.
percentage. You love your free throws. 73% for us. It's got to be killer for them. They got 53% at home. 53% from the free throw line. They were already shooting badly. They got some bull crap tech calls and didn't make the free throws on them. So they had a lot more. We fouled them several more times in the first half for sure. Looks like in the second half it was 6-6, but at one point it was 7-3 in the first half. So that's a big stat right there.
Yeah. So Jackson, next week we got Texas A&M at home. They're going to be another team that's just like Arkansas. Arkansas came into the season, I think, ranked 14th out of the gate. A lot of lofty expectations. They replaced a lot of the talent they lost in the portal. I think they were picked ahead of us for sure. I think they might have been picked fourth. If I remember correctly, A&M was picked third, Tennessee second, and Kentucky first. But we don't have Matt here, who's very much our predictions guy. But
He
we've got
hates
Texas A&M.
predictions, but he knows all the people
Yeah,
that
well, he
did the
knows the
predictions.
projections. He knows the projections. Yeah. A&M sporting preseason player of the year, Wade Taylor, who's their leading scorer at 17 points a game, shooting 82% from the free throw line, 38% from the field. Janai Broom is now up, averaging nearly 16 points a game after tonight.
Wow.
So we're continuing to see some good stuff from him. We're going to find out a little bit more about A&M tonight. They have LSU at home. They're currently a 12-point favorite. That game tips at 8:30 if you want to do a little scout. Anybody that wants to watch. And then we tip off that game against them Tuesday. Oh, it's another late tip for the East Coast, Jackson. They're tipping at 9 o'clock Tuesday.
So tired of these late ones. I know everybody complains about it down in Auburn too. It's even later on the East Coast, but I'm a late night person, so that's the one good thing. One thing to watch out for if you're watching for Texas A&M is Buzz Williams. We talked about the SEC preview. Go back and listen to the SEC preview. It's still very much worth it, even after the Arkansas game. It's long. We do a trial of Jalen Williams, which you might love or hate, but Buzz Williams has had Bruce's number, and he gets out on the court worse than anybody else either. It has a big blowhard, so I'll see how the Auburn fans respond in the stadium to him, but we've got to get a win to get him to exercise that demon, man. He's what the South Carolina coach that went to the Final Four that's now gone. He had our number for a little bit there, just struggled to play against them. Same with Kermit Davis at Ole Miss. It seems to be Buzz is the guy now that we struggle with. They beat us at home a couple times now. One of the rare home losses have come from, at least the rare home losses that weren't from a top 5 team or a top 10 team have been from Buzz Williams, Texas A&M. So this will be a big one to turn around. I'm hoping the momentum from this game helps push us into that, and on top of the jungle going nuts again, man, how much do you value the jungle when you watch Bud Walton do that? Oh, the hype
yeah.
about Bud Walton Arena, man, like I get going down by that much, you would be off a little bit, but early on, they were not loud. Like
Yeah,
after about halfway through the first half,
they got thrown by the officiating as much as we did watching the game.
it
Like
felt
you could
very
tell it disrupted the
NBA.
crowd energy.
Yeah, it felt very NBA-esque. Like, sure, when their team's doing well, they start standing up and cheering, but like they didn't try purposely, it felt like, to engage in the game and try to swing the momentum. The Auburn fans are getting better and better at this. I've noticed there'll be times in the game where we're struggling a bit, and we need that crowd on defense to get it going. And Bruce used to have to get up there and wave his arms around to get the crowd going. Now it feels like when the moment in the game's a little weird, the other team's gone on a little bit of a run, we can't seem to get it. The crowd tries to get that energy going. And a lot of other crowds, like you saw today in Bud Walton, did not do that. Like you would have thought for sure Bud Walton would have at least gone nuts through the first half, right? It was like they were
Yeah.
waiting for their team to start dominating, to start cheering. I was like, no, this is the opposite. Your team needs you right now, and you're not bringing it. So thank God for the jungle.
Well,
They've
and
got it
and
together.
remember, we used to have this debate last year: pro or con heat check timeout. Arkansas hit a couple of threes, and Bruce took a heat check timeout, and that completely sucked all the air out of that arena because
I
they had
love a
had
heat
such a
check
hard
timeout.
time getting mounted up with that. So we now know that Bruce, at the very least, in the right moments,
He
is a
didn't
fan of a
used to
heat
do
check
it, but
timeout.
he's done it more recently in the last year or two. We asked him when he came on the pod, which go back and listen to our Bruce Pearl interview if you get a chance. It's evergreen, as they say. We asked him lots of big pictures questions, so it's not just about the teams or anything. But we asked him about heat check timeouts, and he looked like we had that and starters, and he looked both of those. Oh, I don't know if I do that. And I was like, you never take a heat check timeout, and all your assistants like defend the fact that he doesn't take one. But when we asked him, he was like, oh, I take them every once in a while. Same with starters. We asked him if he why he like his thoughts on always sticking with his starters and rarely changing them out. So, oh, I'm not changing them out every once in a while. Well, I was like, your assistants don't agree. So,
Oh wait, Jackson, I don't know if we talked about this or not, but speaking of Bruce, he's a big fan of making history. We try to reflect that in all of our social media graphics. But we got Tony Barnhart in the chat saying that's only the sixth win ever for Auburn in Bud Walton Arena. I know that's our first time winning at Arkansas or against Arkansas to start SEC play.
There was some stat which we are all about some of the forgotten history of Auburn basketball. We really want the 98-99 team honored for the 25th anniversary this year. We want to play a game in Beer D's. We want the Tiger Stripe jerseys. We've interviewed Cliff Ellis. Go back and listen to our Cliff Ellis interview too, or Sonny Smith interview. There is history there. But Matt sent us some stat today about how bad we've been against Arkansas or some other SEC teams. I was like, at this point, 10 years into Bruce's tenure, I don't care that like we have been so historically bad at Bud Walton. Of course we have been, because we've been terrible as a program for most of our history. So I care more about what's happened since Bruce has been here. And we're turning the corner now. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
this is another making history check mark that I'm hoping in the golden age of Auburn basketball, we can look back and have checked off as many of these things as possible, because there's no guarantee once Bruce heads out one day that we'll be able to put this back together again.
And again, remember, folks, it doesn't matter how good Arkansas gets for the rest of the year. We don't have to play them again until the SEC tournament if it works out that way. Same thing for Texas A&M. It's going to be a great time to get them at home, get that monkey off our back, and then say, sayonara, we don't have to deal with you for the rest of the season.
I'm gonna see if I can look up some scores here. We're
Oh,
still
you
one
want to
of
look
the
around the league?
earlier, yeah, we're one of the earlier games today, so we're not
Kentucky,
gonna be able to.
Kentucky did come back and beat Florida in Gainesville by 3. They
What a
just
shame.
managed to pull it off. Yeah.
Florida, I believe Florida was up by 10 or 8 at half and had them going most of the game, and Kentucky just came all the way back in the late second half. Looks like Alabama's up at halftime over Vandy. Georgia beat Missouri. Man, when
Wow.
is Missouri gonna figure it out? That was your whole thing, Missouri. Like, I don't get
I got
it.
no idea when they're finally going to put together. South Carolina did hold serve against Mississippi State. Mississippi State had Tolu Smith back, which may have played into some of their hijinks. The final score was 68-62. So once again, you see, even though Mississippi State was favored, South Carolina was able to win at home. So winning on the road in the SEC is a real, real challenge.
Well, Ben, we got Texas A&M on Tuesday. Is there anything else you want to do on the recording? We might start doing a thing after these games. I know people want to party and have a good time after these wins and talk amongst their friends and everything about what just happened. So we might start doing our typical recording for the podcast and then ending it and staying on live for a little longer just to chit chat. But any other thoughts you want to get on the recorded podcast?
No, my friends, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, x.com if you're not already. Don't forget to throw us a review, especially if you're a first time listener for this season. Give us a 5-star. It helps other Auburn fans find us when you're looking for Auburn basketball. And if you know somebody that is transitioning sports and is ready to watch the best team on Auburn's campus, send them our way.
Send them the SEC preview episode. You'll learn. You'll feel like you've learned. It's 2 hours long, so there's lots of content in there, and you'll feel like you could talk semi-intelligently about what's happening with this team, even if you didn't get to pay attention to most of the conference games. Ben, one final question. After this big 32-point win, are you having fun?
Jackson, we're having so much fun.
War Eagle, Ben.
War Eagle.
All right, YouTube. We'll stay
Pocket Watch
on.
says there's dozens of us. There are 22 people in the stream right now, which is pretty
That's
cool.
better than it's been. It's growing every day. As long as Auburn basketball is winning, I'm sure our views will be up and our listens will be up and everything.
And
We can look through some.
I know Matt doesn't care about the rankings, but you're right. One of the great things about having a number next to your name is when people look up college basketball scores, they're going to see our brand, they're going to see our name, and especially after a big win like this, come on.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was talking about. It annoys me that Google just gives you the top 25 teams. Like at least give me like the major teams in the top 25 also. But whatever. See if we got any more MVP votes here. You got your graphic ready for
Oh, it's ready to go.
CBM MVP?
Actually, let me see. Let me see if I can drop it in the chat. Can you put a picture in the chat?
I don't know. Yeah, I'd
I
love
don't
to
know either.
share your screen if you can, and you can show us the graphic on the screen.
Yeah. No, I can drop an emoji, but that's it. All right, hold on.
I'm gonna stop sharing mine, and you can share.
You guys are going to see all the weird stuff that I have from all of my various careers.
SEMO exposed from Tucker Roberts. Yes, we spent a decent amount in the earlier segment of the show talking about Chris Moore. Brutal start, especially when it feels like CBM's on the rise. But I think, like we've talked about in the last couple of podcasts, and let me know if you disagree in the chat. CBM's just so useful in that second line. I believe if we didn't talk minutes this game, but CBM with 21 minutes, Chris Moore with 14. 14
I think
minutes
one of
from
my
Chris
favorite
Moore.
things about conference play is that we get so many more pictures right out of the gate. So I'm actually able to really use pictures from the game to generate these graphics. Sick
Love
Chad
it.
Baker Mazara dunk from the first
Look at
half.
that. Look at that. So that's some I feel like I'm getting that fiery Dominican energy, right?
Oh yeah, he's talking that shit in Spanish.
Maybe you could get away with it more, right? I don't I wish someone, and maybe some of these beat writers will tell us whatever. I want to know what these people are saying when they get the text and see how weak it really is. Or if they really did say some insane thing that, like, I just feel like it's got to be something weak. It's all about, and with KD, they keep, like, clearly they've instructed KD if he's going to get exuberant, to talk to the ball or talk to his coaches and nobody else. And clearly
Yeah.
Trey and CBM, it might have just not, maybe they didn't even say anything at all, but they
Well,
like
that was the wild
turned
part was
towards the opposing. Yeah.
CBM was looking into the stands.
Yeah, at some
So
point, like,
I
was he supposed to like freaking? I mean, maybe you can argue if you're an Arkansas fan, like he was like literally smack talking with somebody in the front row or something. But at the same time, you might just be turning towards like the ethereal emptiness to yell something because you like what are you gonna find your people to yell at? You know?
yeah, and again, it's just because they know that Auburn and Arkansas have history of getting chippy, and so they were trying to make sure they kept the game in hand. Which the refs tried, but we did not. We ran them out of their own gym.
14 minutes from
Jax,
Chris
are
Moore.
you
That's
do you have the file already going into Anchor?
no, I'll have to hang up the Zoom before I do
Oh,
that. But
okay.
I figured we chat a little longer, maybe look at the Twitter's memes here, see if there's any good ones.
I would stay with you, but Sarah's got to record an audition, so I got to get off so she can have some quiet.
All right, see you,
But I'll
Ben.
I'll see if I can stay in the chat.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, everybody. War Eagle.
I'll stay on a little bit longer, guys. We'll look at some memes, see what anybody wants to talk about in the chat. Share my screen here. See if they put the score up. They did. They aren't, at least, you could say a lot about Arkansas, but at least they're not cowards. They are. Legend. Wow. Photoshopped it up when Wendell got teabagged that time. We did not forget. I wonder if some of this domination down the stretch was us being like, we're not going to do that again in Fayetteville. We're getting our revenge. I wonder if they showed them any clips of that game or really like talked it up as assistant coaches. War Eagle Bency. Y'all want to see the clock? Hold on. State of Alabama, Auburn clock. In the shape. There's Mobile. There's where Mardi Gras started. Here's Auburn. Right here, maybe. Montgomery, Birmingham, Huntsville, where we just got a win and at a conference. You don't see that every day, right? I know this logo's had a big comeback in the last couple years too. Sadly, it's not functional. I mean, the hands need to be like, you know, need to put some batteries in to even see if it's functional or not. So, see what other memes we got here. Heading out, Ben C. See ya. War Eagle. Walmart, love it. I love all these different teams that have like their guy, their corporation or whatever. That's the Yellowwood people for us, the Walmart for Arkansas, the oil for Texas A&M. Or a little muscleman. He didn't get to take his shirt off. You know what? Coaches that take their shirt off around sporting events, terrible. Unless it's our guy. I like it when Bruce Pearl does it. I'd love to get a soundtrack of what these guys are listening to in the locker room when they're dancing. I'd love for them to post that so I can get hype with them. And I'd learn about some new music. I'd probably feel younger. R.I.P. Wendell. We talk about Wendell in our SEC preview too. If this team would be better or worse if Wendell was on it. Same with who was the other one? Alan Flanagan. I saw somebody on Twitter, or maybe it was a different podcast or Reddit or something. CBM, more like ICBM, because he going nuclear. Tucker, you want to see a different one? I don't know if I showed this one off or not yet. And I have much more cool stuff at my parents' place, but in New York, you can only keep up with so many things. Auburn basketball court. Down at that thrift store when I was in college. Not many people have a plaque of the Auburn basketball court. Little Auburn logo. I'm sure it's Beard Eves. It's kind of messed up. But on the day Bruce Pearl came in, I went to the private airport or whatever, greeted him at the plane, and like the next day he did a press conference or a student section thing or something, and I went and grabbed this off the wall and got him to sign it there. You can see. Bruce Pearl signed in the house. And if you want I've shown this one a couple times. These are just things sitting around my office right now. But the Beardies Memorial Coliseum final season hat. Too bad it looks terrible on me. Just it don't fit right. Wow, I don't know what this commercial is. Noted equestrian Charles Barkley was amused by your loss. Speaking of that, I don't know if this got brought up or not. We did when Jonathan came on for our 100th episode. I brought it up, I believe, but Charles Barkley and the detective murders or the referee murders. It's a whole comic book about Charles Barkley as if he's a detective that's solving referee murders. It's very good. Rare place, rare piece there. I love that, Tucker. I love that it's the F word. We don't bring it up. Bad piggies. I missed that game. Those were simpler times when we were playing Angry Birds. That was the best it could ever be. I need some catfish. I haven't had catfish. It's like probably a decade. Are catfish houses just dying out? I feel like that was like a big thing. I feel like when I was younger, like in elementary school, even early teenage years, that you would go to a catfish house to celebrate something, or people were having catfish at the house, or someone brought catfish to the party. I never hear about catfish. Maybe it's because I'm up here in New York or whatever, but I remember like as a kid, like my dad frying some catfish up like in the yard while we played, and you could go get some catfish. Like is Peck of the Walk or Peak of the Walk or something. We used to be out in Opelika somewhere. I'd go there to get catfish with my aunt and uncle. Oh man, Tucker, yes, send us some pictures of that thing. The striped Auburn basketball jersey. We love it. We love it on the pod. I want one. The Peacocks are back. Love it. I was on a flight to Miami the other day and got off, and a guy on the flight just a couple rows from me was wearing the Auburn Peacock shirt. I wish I could remember his name. I told him to check out the podcast. So if you're listening, I guess he probably won't be on YouTube Live, but cool guy. Dad Baker Mazzara. That's great. So many. When you have three different names, you can play a lot with the stuff. Dad Baker. We got to figure out something to do with a Baker here. All right. He'd be baking the other team. Mazzara. Could do something with Mazda there, maybe. I don't know. Dominican, not Dominicant. Love that. I'd love to hear more about CBM. The better he plays, the more we're going to hear about him. I didn't even know it was Dominican until like a game or two ago when the announcers were bringing that up. Shout out to Marlene Navor, an SID, media relations that puts that kind of stuff in front of the announcers. They don't just figure that out themselves. We give it to them. So I'm hoping to hear more about CBM in the future. Wild ride going to 4 different schools now. Cock of the Walk. There you go, Pocket Watch. I knew it was something like that. It still exists. That was a good place. I liked it. JD Johnson, KD Johnson. Nice. Very artistic here. Who's this? Barner Burner. What? Bringing some art, bringing some class to the fan base. Ooh, y'all see this? This was crazy. Arkansas or Alaska airline flight where the door just flew off. Could you imagine? I don't know. I guess no one was sitting there, maybe, or I don't know. I got to read more into this, but like, there's some videos out there of this flight where they're like doing it like within, I think, like in like the first like 20 minutes of their flight, the door flies off, and they have to fly back, emergency land without the door here. There's like people sitting pretty close to it. It's got to be. I wonder how cold it is up there. They all have their oxygen masks on. Brutal. You get to see everything now with cell phones, man. Everyone has their own thing. So it's like, even in an emergency like this, you gotta get all kind of videos. It's been a wild year for airlines. They say it's going a lot better, but the diarrhea plane, the crazy lady yelling about the lizard people, and now this. Wow. Yeah, I remember seeing Muscleman be like, holy crap, this is going really bad. We had to weather a little bit of storm there. I remember midway through the second half or so, we were up 15-16 like this, and they hit a couple big threes, and we just kept going back into the paint. Broom just kept finishing. I think KD finished one, and that's all you got to do. You just got to weather those storms. Every team is going to go on a run, and we weathered this one. Nice. My Facebook page growing up used to have a link to it, and you could put a website to your Facebook page, like what's your website or like a business or something. And mine was monsterpig.com. There was a humongous hog that got killed, I think in Alabama, and it was like the size of a freaking cow. Like you could ride that thing in a battle. And they'd set up a website just for pictures of that one pig they killed. Like a kid killed it with a pistol, I believe. And yeah, that was my website for a long time. And then like years later, after I put that on my website for the monsterpig.com, which was like the most janky website with like 15 pictures of the monster pig with a kid next to it and how huge it was. And then like years later, my sister clicked on or something, and it was like, yeah, this website has malware. Don't click on this. I had to remove it. You know a game's bad when the announcers are constantly talking about things outside of the game. When the game's a top 25 matchup and it's close, they kind of throw those notes out. But I feel like every announcer has been told since the dawn of time, or whatever, that they have to entertain the neutrals or something when the games aren't right. It annoys the crap out of me. For this one, maybe on ESPN2, like maybe an ESPN game, maybe a CBS game. When things get out of hand, you have to entertain the neutrals. But like on SEC Network stuff, SEC Network Plus, they're still going through their like sheets of nonsense and talking about things outside the game. I'm like, the only people watching this game right now are the fan bases of these two teams. That's all they want to hear about is their basketball teams. They did not come to get entertained by like the F level ESPN announcers. We don't care what you're up to or what you're eating in town or any of this stuff. Like that, we don't care about the college almost said the F word. We don't care about the playoffs and the other sport. Just talk about basketball. They just had, I don't know how long their list is. It's like nonsense to talk about. I mean, they talked about women's basketball for like 5 minutes, like promoting for next game, whatever. While Cardwell was putting back a great dunk, and they just ignored it. They just ignored the dunk because we were winning by 30 at the time. But if that had been a close game, a 2-point game, and Cardwell put that back, they would not be talking about other sports. Tucker said the first minutes of both halves are stone cold for the Hogs. 2 runs, but that's all they had. Easy dub. Hogs to the Final Four. They yeah, you just had to weather that last run in the second half, and that's a vet team to just keep going to what's working with Jonai Broom down there. That's the one argument you could make for his MVP is that when they did have their runs in the second half, that's where we were going. Yeah, we and If they turn the corner, that's the thing with Arkansas. Both Arkansas and Tennessee. I mean, Arkansas, I guess you know now that you just can't seem to figure it out during the regular season. That was what you wanted to know. If Arkansas could figure out during the regular season along with their March Madness. Well, they can't do that again. So now all the pressure is you got to go on another run in March Madness to make this count. And they're not gonna, that's just luck is gonna say that's not gonna happen. You can be if Musselman pulls that off again, if he goes another Sweet 16 or better, I will admit that he has got something figured out. A way to peak in March where that screws up the first half of your year, but you get it going by March. As of right now, like surely he's due for an early exit or not even making it. So we'll see. Tennessee's the opposite. They've been having great seasons. They're still having another great season, and they can't figure out March. So Tennessee fans basically have to wait unless they win the SEC. Then they don't probably won't care as much about March. But like their fans are getting irritated that they're not pulling it off in March. Nice. What are we gonna do about Joe Nice hair? I feel like he needs to shave his head. He's got to do something different with the hairstyle. He's giving me Joe Kim Noah vibes. Tucker, I do work in media, not sports media, but there's Muscleman with his stupid shirt off. I didn't realize he did that against Kansas too. Oh boy, getting political. Love the Photoshop though. He giveth and he taketh, and he's giveth more this year. Love it. He's sunned. That's your dad. That's how Broom keeps getting texts, is doing stuff like this though. Crazy in the game where they were handing out little texts here and there that CBM and Trey are the ones that got it instead of Broom. He keeps to being the one that collects them. Nice. We own Bud Walton now. Nice. Little pig cried, woo, 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 all the way home. Leave us alone. Oh, yeah. Man, they were quiet. They were quiet in this one. I mean, me and Ben talked about it on the podcast, but man, they were quiet the whole game. I don't want to hear about that arena environment anymore. They're getting Kentucky level where it's like, sure, you have a huge arena. It's really nice and NBA style, but that's not what people want these days. I also noticed in the Florida Kentucky game, I don't know how long they've been doing this. I believe it happened a year or two ago. They used to have the camera on the other side of the student section where you could just kind of barely see the top of the student section. And like you knew they had a good one. You would have little highlights and things where you could see their student section back in like the big Billy Donovan days, but you couldn't really see it. And it killed how their environment looked. And now they've switched the camera around. I don't know. I guess that's a choice by the schools to give the camera people their spots, but they switched it up and it looks way better at Florida. They look very similar to Auburn with where their student section is across the base, not the baseline, but the middle of the court. They were all in orange today. We should do some more. I'm not about the color stuff in some other sports, but in basketball, I would like to see an all orange thing, which we do sometimes, hand out the shirts. Chad, Baker, mozzarella, some sort of sauce, but I'm assuming something Mazzara. Love that. It's got to be a brutal life for Arkansas fans. You got to feel a little bad for them, right? Like they think they should be on the level with some other fan bases and some other schools in our conference and just aren't. And they're in a weird territory. They're not bottom dwellers, but they just, other than being good at basketball in the 90s, which were 30 years ago, they don't have really much going on. Thanks, Bobby. Still a bunch of haters about the barbecue. There's still people out there that just they for some reason their moral clock goes off that Bruce ever lied about a barbecue. Whisper Arena, Bud Whisper Arena. Love it. Hopefully they'll turn it up for Alabama or Kentucky or whoever comes and get them some losses. But man, we got out early. It's good to play Arkansas early while they're still figuring things out. They might still figure it out with the talent level they have, but they've done it traditionally. So glad to have them early. Would love to lock that in every year. Love to lock in Tennessee late when they start unfiguring it out like they usually do. Here we go. Nice. I gotta figure. I wonder where this Charles Barkley horse picture comes from. Let's see if we can find it. I forgot about this. Not the only time he's been on a horse. God, I love Chuck on TNT. There he is. Charles Barkley's 12 greatest ads. All right, let's see it. All right, Business Insider. Come on. Oh, the Godzilla. I want that poster. Charles Barkley plays Godzilla. Great ad. We love some Charles Barkley shoes too. I would love for those to make a comeback. He should. I would love to see if that we could make that happen. Not us necessarily, but Chuck. I mean, he's even more popular than he ever was. I'd love to have a Charles Barkley shoe. Shoot, make him a golf shoe. Right guard. Right guard. That's a deodorant, right? Yeah. Right guard deodorant. Love that I'm not a role model, even though he totally is. I'll have to watch this Charles Barkley show one. I wonder if USC can turn the tide. They've been playing so terribly. It's crazy. They've got all the talent in the world. Left behind. All right, folks. Anything else you guys want to talk about before I sign off? Fun looking at memes with everybody. Fun celebrating another big win. I'm gonna finish this bottle off. Thanks, Pocket Watch. Thanks for coming back over and over again. Hopefully we'll have, we're talking about how much fun we're having this year. Hopefully we just keep having more fun. Would y'all ever try to get Jay Ferg on the pod? I don't know him. We've had a lot of great interviews with coaches and other personalities, people around the program. We've never had a beat writer on, but yeah, I'd love to have him on if he wants to come on. No man, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, y'all go let your friends know. Like and subscribe and all, but you guys, you're already locked in. If you're this late into the live chat still, then you're already locked in. I just hope like I said, like many times now, this is a place we can all gather to celebrate. We've got busy lives. Some of us live far away, so it's fun to have like a get together. Cool. All right, guys.